get someone inquire about
What do you have?
the history
There's a
of
cell,
the north
there's a cell
cell
phone in the
phone?
men's restroom.
Lakeshore Drainage District.
Okay.
It was an attorney
So,
that said-
a little announcement for you. There was a cell phone left in the men's restroom. If you don't have your cell phone with you,
The Lakeshore Drainage District.
somebody has it.
Legally,
We can't hear?
some materials that are.
Try again. See if it's coming on board.
You can hear it? Okay.
Can you hear me now? Sorta? Probably a little louder.
Can't hear
Usually
it
I
now.
can hear it when I hear it go on. Still sounds like it's right here. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go, okay. There was a cell phone left in the men's restroom, so if you're missing a cell phone,
Go get it.
who has, does Jeff has it, I guess. He was the one that announced it. Teresa does, okay, it's at the information desk right here. All right, welcome this morning. Looks a little dark in this corner. No, lights don't work over there. We're gonna start with, we've got two municipal bond meetings that are authority, whatever you call them. What is it? Municipal
Service areas.
Service areas. Service areas number 7 and 8 that we did kind of partially the last time. We have number 7 and number 8 in which we need to tentatively adopt the budget. Any questions on service area number 7?
Just checking with the auditor. The amounts did not change from last week, right?
Well, I don't have the, what we had before us last week. I know we were still waiting on some adjustments, but the number is $931,534 in expenses and revenues for service area number 7.
Then I'm good.
Motion to be in order?
I'll move that we tentatively adopt the 2018 tentative budget as stated in number 1 for service area 7.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to tentatively adopt the budget as stated number 1 on our regular agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Motion
And
to adjourn?
Second?
a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll move to the service area number 8. What's the number on that one?
And on service area number 8, we've come up with a tentative balance budget of $1,176,876. That's in revenues and expenses.
Okay, any questions on that?
No. I'll move that we review, consider, and tentatively adopt 28 tentative budget for Utah County Service Area number 8.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second to tentatively adopt the budget as stated number 1 on our regular agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned from that meeting. Okay, we have to re-push the buttons, right? Okay, we'll wait for that as we move to our Board of Equalization. Oh, good, okay. All right, now we're in our Board of Equalization meeting, and we have 6 items on our agenda. It has been recommended that we continue number 5. And if we could do that right now, that'd be great to continue that one.
Do we need to make a motion, or can we just do it on consent?
Either way. Well, okay, we'll just consent it to be continued. Well, now we better make a motion since we're gonna do something with the motion on the date.
Okay, I'll move that we continue item number 5 until our next afternoon meeting on November 28th.
Second?
I got a motion and a second to continue that. Item number 5, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Now let's go back to number 1. Any questions on the minutes?
No.
Motion to be in order?
Move that we approve regular agenda item number 1.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve agenda item number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. And number 2 is a review process report from the assessor approved. Any questions on that one?
Nope.
Nope. Motion to be in order?
Move that we that we approve the review process report stated number 2.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item number 2 as stated on our agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. And number 3 is to approve the Board of Equalization hearing process report. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay.
Move that we approve the Board of Equalization hearing process report.
Second?
I got a motion and a second to approve the, as stated, number 3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Number 4, as I look down through this, and it looks like there's been comments on there, that there is some evidence that there was an attempt to mail it before the deadline. Are there any questions on this one? Then I would recommend that we approve this one.
I will move that we approve the petition as stated in number 4.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. All right, we'll go to number 6. Mr. Jones, if you will
Thank you, Mr.
get us
Chairman.
back up to speed on this one. I remember this from last, this was a continued one. Okay,
Great. My recollection is that we continued this item to see if Mountain Land Head Starts had or could secure a building permit. Perhaps I'll just make a comment or two about the legal standard there. The Tax Administration Office and myself reviewed a few state tax commission cases. And from one of those cases, case 07-1121, don't know if you have that in front of you or not, the tax commission says, from the rule, it is clear that merely being in the planning phase of construction or being committed to construct on the property is not sufficient. A building permit must be obtained or construction commenced. And then down in the conclusions of law, again, assessment of facts presented, the commission concludes that the property, I'm
So I-
sorry, I think I'm,
Can I ask you a question then to
Yep.
clarify that? Then why did the state tax commission on appeal grant one for 7 years that was not under construction and reversed ours decision and granted one and they're still not under construction for Utah Housing?
is this before that? When did this happen? When was
this
this?
is a 2007 case that I'm talking about now.
Yeah, so it's way before.
I do think it, I mean, I could continue to look into it. Again, I think that the commission sort of walked around and teased around the rule to get to.
No.
the-
I'm trying to enforce what the state tax commission already did on appeal.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
I don't see a difference in this.
right. Well, in that case,
Actually, I do see a difference in this. The housing authority sat on land and waited for the market to improve so they could have optimal conditions. Therefore, they were considered in process, even though they weren't actually in process because they were waiting for the market to change so they could do affordable housing.
yeah,
These ladies are in a city trying to do a school in process, but because the city is backed up 4 months, they're being punished, even though they're further along in the process than housing authority is. And so this is just not fair under that law.
The distinction that the tax commission makes is that the housing authority is in the business of.
Well, it's not the housing, it's
Rural housing.
rural
Sorry,
housing.
Yeah, let's
yes.
get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rural housing is in the business of holding, and that's their charitable work, is in vacant land. So that's the distinction there.
So, oh, I see. So you're drawing the line in that is their process and that is their work, and that's how they kind of drew the line?
Correct. Yeah, that is their charitable purpose, is working in vacant land. That's what they do.
So the fact that they've got a receipt for a building permit and the city hasn't stamped it,
I don't know if we've seen a receipt for a building permit.
Bert Harvey Tax Administration Office, Vicky Westergaard followed up with the
Saratoga
Head Start.
Street.
I think they might be here, and we'll probably, if they're here, we should let them speak to
Sure.
this. But as far as we understand, actually, they've not gotten a receipt for the building permit yet. They actually had applied and it was denied, and they were still in the process of working through the city's requirements before a building permit could be issued. So, as far as we know, that's where we're at, but I'll let them.
I'm glad you
I would
said
rather
it that
let
way.
them-
They were denied, but they are still in what? What's the word you said?
They're in process. of
In
getting-
process, thank you. That's exactly what the code says. Are they in process of doing their business? That's where we can grant the exemption. You said the exact word I was looking for. Thank you.
All right.
So Paul,
That's the problem here.
I just want to ask then, from your perspective, to make sure I understand it correctly, that, because we continued this for further study into this issue to see if it would mirror what the Rural Housing Authority is doing. And so, in your opinion, you're saying that it does not.
That is my opinion, and I found the part I was going to read to you earlier. Basically, the tax commission is saying, from the facts presented, the commission concludes that the property was committed to be used for educational purposes, but the property was vacant and no building permit had been issued. And so, I think that's the standard that the state tax commission, and that the standard that you have to work with is either actual construction, as in constructing physically, or a building permit. I think those are your options.
So
I think
my other
that's how
question
you
is
qualify.
because I wanted to continue this as well so that we could get that clarified, because if they did fall underneath that as well, I wanted to be able to grant them that same opportunity. What are the ripple effects if we were to grant this? Would it open up a box for others in the future in the sense of what that process is? And do we have a line that we can actually identify, or does it start to meander back and forth?
Well, the state tax commission would say that the line is clear. You have construction or a building permit. Now, again, that 07 case that I was reading from.
Hey, hold on though. They're under construction. They are doing a prefab building with an architect off-site in designs. They're in construction. See, this one, that's why I say this one is like every asterisk or problem with this code. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, the construction would need to be on the property, because that's what would be exempt is the property tax. And so, I think you would need to be able to drive down
I'm
to the
glad the state
location.
has decided that rural housing is the exception to every rule, and anything that this is, well, to me, I'm granting this one because this falls under the commission's authority or discretion, because this is what's right. This is an organization that does more good for the community, and we waive all these fees all the time. But for a booming building industry up there, and they're working through the process. I mean, by our own standards, the county withheld somebody's building permit at county error for a couple of months. And we would have, under this, punished them for it, but yet they were in process. So that's my problem with this. We don't know because we're not Saratoga Springs. We just know what they do and where they're at, and they've been honest. We're trying to get our permit. They're through the architect. They've done this. So to me, this checks every box. If we're going to ever grant rural housing, they can keep carving out all the little rules they want, but this is not a difference.
So when was, let's get back to the building permits then. When were they applied for? When were they denied? Or what was the case on those?
I don't have the information on that. Perhaps the applicant, or I don't know if Bert knows the dates. But the applicant will probably help us out with that.
Good morning, Lilia Cunningham with Mountain Land Head Start.
Hi, I'm Barbara Doxey.
So, good morning. We started the permitting process with Saratoga Springs. So they redlined our modular building along as somebody had forgotten to register something related to the land. So they sent back the paperwork.
When was this?
This was back in June. And so after that, we had to go back and resubmit the paperwork about a month ago. And what's holding it back is that they're saying that our land is 25,360 square feet, and that in order for us to have rezoning for education instead of commercial, that it has to be 30,000. And so it's now in the hands of the Saratoga Springs city attorney.
Okay.
Plus, they are quite a few weeks behind in their work. And that's why it's taking so long for them to even just review our paperwork.
And we're applying for a property tax exemption in 2017? And so the building permit was, you're saying June is when you first applied for it? But we look for January 1st?
No, we look for any time during the year, because the property taxes were already paid by the previous owner up to that point of when they acquired the property.
I think it says that they're in process by January 1st.
Oh, that's really loud, sorry. Bert Harvey Tax Administration Office. Sorry, let me come over here. In this case, in their case, they acquired the land this year. They applied for the exemption within the 30 days to have that. So, I mean, we'd be
Okay.
looking at a partial exemption for 2017 anyways. And once the initial exemption is granted, then in 18, they'd be able to apply and have the exemption continued. So at question whether or not they get the exemption this year, obviously, is what we're considering today. If it was to be denied, they could still reapply in 2018 once the building permit is issued and they're moving forward, and then we could start that as of January 1 next year. But in terms of this year, we'd only be looking at a partial exemption from basically the time they took ownership of the land and commenced
When was
their
that?
exclusive use. And I think that, I guess you could probably argue that the exclusive use commenced on whenever they took ownership of the land this year.
That was, when did you take ownership?
We didn't get the application until much later than that.
So, once the purchase of the land takes place, then you have 30 days to do the application, is that,
That's correct.
To get
Let me look at
involved in
this.
the current year.
to get in the current year?
Right.
Well,
That's
it
why
would be,
this
it
is
would need to
partial.
be, yeah,
It was
the
a- it
current
would
year,
be a
but
partial.
That's why this is a partial, right, not
Yeah.
a whole year.
Yeah,
But
But
if their
if you
application wasn't
take out-
timely, then they could not apply for 17. They'd have to
so,
wait till
so let me
February.
follow this through. So if they took it on, let's say January 1st for easy numbers, then by February 1st, we should have seen an application.
yeah, actually, we didn't receive the application until August 1st. And we put this on the agenda, I guess, with the assumption that they had taken ownership of the land within that 30-day time period. It says what days this used to begin. It says services begin end of August 2018. I don't know, if there's enough questions on this, then maybe perhaps we should continue this for one more month to finalize all this and get
I think
everything
it's
put
not
back
gonna
together.
matter. We actually only continued it. It wasn't to do all the stuff that Paul's talking about. We actually only continued because what we actually asked as the commission, or I guess in this case the board, is we asked if we could flag this.
Yeah.
What we wanted to do is approve it and then say, is there an automatic hold in 2018 so that this is automatically reviewed? That question has actually been answered by Dave when he said, this is only a partial. In 2018, they'd have to reapply in January. So going on what the commission actually said at the last meeting, we should approve this one today, and they still have to apply for a full exemption in 2018 anyway, because this is a partial for 2017,
If
going
their-
back to August.
If their application wasn't timely, you don't have jurisdiction to approve it. So that's something you ought to continue to look into. If they didn't apply within the statutory time period, you don't have jurisdiction to approve it.
Yeah, let's keep beating up charities.
Well, I don't think that's the point. The point is that we want to get it right as much as possible and see it
Right.
all the way through so that we're not swaying back and forth.
In terms of the process, we can flag this, we can make sure that the building permit has
The
been.
problem is we can say, yeah, they didn't do it timely. And we can debate what the reason is, but the commission historically has accepted several hundred, if not thousands, of applications well after the deadline over the history of this county.
Right.
This would not be out of the norm of what the county has done historically, including this, not this sitting commission, but some of us commissioners.
Andrea Allen just brought up the date the deed was recorded was June 6th. And we received the application the 1st of September.
August, you said.
Let me go back to the date it was stamped.
So
Yeah, August 1st.
either way, if we were going to accept the late application, that would need to come before us.
You have limited, under some, the code has provisions for late applications for some types of applications, but not for this one.
Not this one?
No. It doesn't have extended deadlines that I'm aware of for this, for an exemption application. Paul could look at that and see if there is something there for late application, but I don't believe that there is.
Well, I would recommend that to clean it up, make sure we're going down the right path, that we continue it another month to see where we're at.
We'd be happy to get further clarification on that. That's obviously a failure on my office's part to make sure the application was received timely. If it was not, we should have treated this as a late application, went through that process first, and made the recommendation based on that. So we need to get that fixed.
Okay?
To me, there's a few bugs that we still need to work out there with that information, and so I would be happy to continue that as well.
We can't continue it. We actually need to strike it, we actually need to reject it, because if what they're saying is, and we're gonna continue it for that, it would need to come back, have a approval or denial on the late application, and see if we accept it, then we can actually hear the rest of this. So we actually need to take action on this agenda item by striking it, therefore we can go back and redo the process.
Either way, I mean, they could always do it before in the same meeting if there was an accepted, if we wanted to go that route.
I just think that looks bad on the minutes if we have a thing that we've continued for 2 months and then finally we decide to hear the late appeal.
Well, we're just trying to get it right.
I don't,
That's what I'm saying, so we should just strike this, let them put both agenda items back on for next month, is all I'm saying.
Which is the same thing.
Right.
Either way, it
Except
doesn't
for-
matter. We can
except for it's
strike it
the-
or we continue it.
Well, if we're gonna
It'll-
leave it on, I'm gonna make a motion to approve it.
I would
Well-
prefer to continue it, because at this point in time, I cannot actually approve this.
Would-
I would
would-
be a,
Would,
Well, that's my point, I just think we
I've
should,
got
at this
one
point in
motion
time,
right now.
I would be.
Want to hold that motion?
My preference would be to move to continue this item to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
I can't get there, we're skirting the policy. If we're gonna make a policy decision based on code, we need to strike it so it can come back on. That's what I'm saying, I appreciate why you wanna continue it, but we need to do it, if we're gonna continue it and do it the right way, continuing
get
it
to
really
the same
striking.
spot.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. Dave, doesn't it get to the same spot?
I think you can do it either way.
So.
Alright.
Fine, I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second, continue it. Are we putting a date on there? Did you have that in there?
Or
Okay.
November 28th.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I got two that are ayes in favor. That's Commissioner Ivy and Commissioner Lee, and one nay, and that's Commissioner Graves. All right. Do we need to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn?
Second.
And a motion is second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0. Okay. Okay, now we'll move into our, let's wait. We'll wait till we push the buttons. Okay. We are now in our regular meeting, commission meeting. And as always, we have the opportunity for those in the audience, if you would like to participate with us in a prayer, reading, or a thought, if you'd like to give that, or the pledge of, or lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any that would like to volunteer to do so? Okay, seeing none,
With prayer.
you'll do the prayer? I'll do the pledge. Commissioner.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this time grateful to assemble as citizens of this great nation and this wonderful county to discuss the affairs and workings of the local government in regards to its service to the citizens of this county. We ask for direction and prudence in the decision-making that will go forward, that we might be thoughtful and considerate, that we might have a mindset that is reflective upon the needs of the citizens, and will act in a manner that promotes freedom, liberty and their ability to live their lives according to the dictates of their hearts. We express gratitude for the blessings of this wonderful country and the things that we enjoy here, and again ask thy direction to guide us in wisdom and exercising prudence in our responsibilities. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. For one nation under God, if you would stand and repeat the pledge with us. Okay. On our agenda, we have 12 items on consent. Well, let's see, hold on. Let's move right first to the public hearing. I'll start at the top. So let's move into a public hearing now, and this, go ahead and announce, what this is for, and start us off. if
You
would.
bet. Brandon Larson, Community Development Staff. What this is this is a proposed amendment of French Country Estates, Plat A Lot 6. The applicant has been working for quite a while now trying to site a home on this lot. There's some constraints in siting that home. There's a 30-foot canal easement, 20 of which lies on the west property line of this home. And that canal easement's making it hard for him to be able to site a septic tank. And so what he's proposing to do is to vacate the canal easement. He's contacted.
To do what to the canal? I missed that word.
Vacate it.
Okay.
Vacate only the portion. So there's a 30-foot canal easement that runs north to south through the entire plat. The plat's kind of runs long ways east to west. He is proposing to vacate the portion of the canal easement that lies only in his lot. The rest of it would remain. He's contacted the Highline Canal Company and the Bureau of Reclamation. They're kind of tied to
And it's
each
been
other.
filled in since what?
Yeah, since
2006.
2006. And Payson City has in the past operated the ditch, a ditch through that canal easement. They've abandoned any operation within that easement. And so the applicant's put together a really good application. It appears that they've met the
Done a lot of
requirements for a
work.
plat amendment. Yeah, they really have. And so staff has recommended that this application be approved. And the reason why I brought this here for a public hearing was just that the county attorney's office felt, and our staff felt that it would be wise to open this up for public comment because of the vacation nature of the application.
Okay, thank you. So being in a public hearing, it is open for comments. Anyone who would like to comment on this issue, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing. I think I need a motion to do that, don't I, Dave?
Close the public hearing, yes.
Yep.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
I got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we'll move into our consent agenda. We've got 12 items on consent. And as we've done in the past, we will move things onto consent, or we'll look at them and pull them off of consent for consideration. And as we get to our regular agenda, we'll pull them off. And if there's any comments to those items as we get to them, if you'd like to come up and state your name, and you can talk to the specific items that we're looking at. Otherwise, if it's just general public comments, we have a section at the end for public comments. So with the consent agenda items, I don't see any on regular consent that I need to pull off.
I didn't have any questions.
And the only question is on number 2, that change order. How much money, because where are you gonna get the funds? That's the only question, because,
Should we pull that one off?
well, to get excess funds to follow policy, he needs to go back to tab meeting, so, unless he's gonna identify it in his budget. That's the question. So, and I know he doesn't have it in his budget, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
That,
point.
that one's got some,
Let's pull that one. Let's pull that one off. Any others? Good point. Okay, moving to our regular agenda, we will assume at this point that everything is on consent, except for what we are pulling off. I'd like to see, of course, number 1, number 2, number 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 11. Any others? Yeah, those are the ones that we're gonna be, do you want me to go through that again to discuss? So from our consent agenda, number 2, we're gonna pull that off for discussion. We're gonna pull off number 1 on regular agenda, number 2, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and number 11. And all others we put on consent with either approval, authorization, or acceptance, or whatever the verbiage is on their line item. Okay, and is there any comments to the ones we pulled on consent? Okay, seeing none, Richard, if you come on up, we'll address number 2 on consent, which is a change order on the courthouse right here.
$20,000.
Yep.
Just, I guess first, do you have any questions on what the change order is or why or anything like that? Is it just going back to the tourism tax board?
Yeah, it's just how we're planning on paying for it, just because we kind of, we made the process legal in the process of you
Understand.
accepting this contract.
Understand, yeah, and several others in the process.
So it's kind of one of those
But-
weird ones
And
for
and
you.
this one has been paid out of the 400 account, rather than directly from TRCC.
Okay.
But the funding source has been traditionally TRCC for that building, so.
Okay, so do you have enough budgetary fund, excuse me, budget in that 400?
For this particular change
Yeah.
order, there's 53,000, so that would
Perfect.
cover the change
Okay.
order. Okay.
Good.
With that, any other questions for me or
Nope.
direction?
Okay.
Maybe not next time.
Nope. Then I will move that we approve and authorize the commission chair to sign the change order stated number 2.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to approve and authorize the change as stated number 2 on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. All right. So we have number 1 on a regular agenda, which is to review, consider, and tentatively adopt the 2018 tentative budget for the general funds and other budgetary funds. We have that list on here if you've been watching it. I'm not gonna read down through everything on there, but I would like to
We'll
have.
save that.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll let, Brian, if you would
Okay.
kind of summarize, go through our revenues and expenses and just kind of summarize, where we're at tentatively on the budget.
Well, for the tentative budget, our office has gone ahead and come up with a balanced tentative budget without appropriating anything from fund balance of the amount of $78,769,229. And that's what we're showing in both revenue and expenses, and that's in the 100 fund, the general fund. I might point out that that is a decrease of approximately $5 million from last year's approved budget. And the reason being, at this point in time, there's still some uncertainties that need to be addressed, which will be addressed before the final budget hearing in December. But those include, of course, where we're going with the market study, which is out there. This particular budget does include the merit increases and that are already planned, but it does not include any adjustments for the market study. Also, the reason that this is lower in going into the 2017 budget process, at the time, there were just estimates made on some of the benefit costs. It turns out that those actual benefit costs, once elections were made, were lower than anticipated. So that actually turned out to be a savings. We also had the one-time purchase of the new HRIS system. And then we had the one-time unexpected expenses associated with the special congressional election. And so those are items that won't be necessary to fund in the 2018 budget. And as a result, that does help lower part of the cost. But as you know, that this is a tentative process. We tend to be very conservative in preparing the tentative budget, then deferring to you as a commission in the coming weeks to make the final decisions on the requests, staffing plan issues, and of course, looking at the market study as we prepare to adopt the final budget.
So
Do you have specific questions?
I do for you. There were 3 significant outliers in the internal service funds. The sheriff's department, but that historically goes up about 10%. Yours, but I know why, because we made some office changes and remodeling and stuff. You're occupying historic courthouse space. The one that I don't understand is in human resources. It went up 130,000, and I'm wondering why, because their rent shouldn't have gone up as far as any more than normal. And we bought an outside program, so I don't know why IT would be charging more to support a program that we. I guess I'm wondering what the reasoning that they gave you, because we don't hold the departments responsible for this fund. So I'm wondering why that fund is such an outlier compared to what was spent in 2017.
So what you're talking about is the internal service fund as it relates to both information systems and.
It'd have to be because we
and-
lump
and
it.
rent.
Do you know any reasoning on why?
You know, I'd have
she's
to look
being
at the
charged
specifics.
130,000 more
I'd have
Are
to
you
look at
talking,
this.
can I get, so you're saying 222 for
this year,
2017, and then the 345
For next year.
for 2018? Yeah, that is interesting.
which we've already paid for the program.
Yeah.
The rent, she's not adding space. I just,
That's one of the things we'll look at. I will also point out that there is continually some updating information that's going back and forth
Sure.
from departments as we're adjusting those.
but I know
So-
you don't pick those numbers. I'm just wondering if,
Yeah, so we'll look into that.
Sure.
It's
We'll
kind of
mention-
interesting, because in 2016, it was
it was
404,
400, I know.
407.
Yeah, it's all over.
So
Yeah.
And
we'll
again,
definitely make
the
note of
department
that.
heads, we don't hold the department heads responsible
Right.
for this fund. That's why I say I would like to kind of know why that one, she
Okay.
is the only one that kind of fluctuates. Everybody else is either constant or constantly increasing, so.
A question for you, Brian, and you may not have these numbers, but maybe just roughly, you talked about one-time purchases from last year with the HRIS and also with the elections. What, in a roundabout way, was those numbers, unless you have those?
Well,
What
right
was that?
offhand, if I remember, the HRIS, we included the portion for the installation with Mercer, which was close to $900,000, if I remember correctly, somewhere in there. Plus, we also had the partial year fees to Workday, which with everything involved there was another $300,000 or $400,000. And then, of course, you granted us that $500,000 for the election expenses. So we're talking just under $2 million in those 2 items. Of course, we're looking and hoping that the legislature, when they convene this spring, will reimburse some of those
Sure.
election costs.
But you mentioned one, the early payment to Workday, however. That's not a one-time, that's an ongoing, because
That's
that's
a-
part of our annual fee.
Right, that's the prorated amount
Right.
just for 2017.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Does that answer your question,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
I just wanted to get kind of a ballpark on there on
Yeah.
why, you're explaining why it's a little bit lower, and some of those are been in there as one-time expenditures, not all of them, but, and we'll hope that we get a little bit back.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you for going down through that and working.
And I do want to emphasize to the departments, we did send out budgetary letters with the tentative budget figures. Just remind the departments to please contact you and copy Deneen and I on any requests that they want relooked at. Once again, this is just tentative. And so it's a situation where they're still based upon market study and other things and your priorities, opportunities to adjust accordingly.
So, now tagging on top of that, the commission, as we've talked about this process going forward, We'd like the departments to contact their portfolio commission first and run through the additional asks and so forth that are in there, or any concerns they have, and then we'll work it from that process kind of forward.
Yes, and the hope is that departments will do that in the coming 10 days or so.
Right.
Because we'd like to accomplish that before the UAC meetings, the middle part of the month. Then that allows you a chance to formalize everything, and then we can prepare for that first Tuesday in December public hearing.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is that if, as the departments meet with their portfolio commissioner, then the commission will get together with the auditor's office and clerk auditor's office, and then we'll talk back and forth about what's there. And I know it's a little different. The sheriff left to meet with all three of us, but,
Can I address that real quickly?
Sure.
Sheriff Tracy. With what we submitted before, we only saw changes of about $5,000 for the previous asks as was presented in the initial budget presentation. Do you want us to redo all of that? And because the priorities haven't changed, the rankings haven't changed, and nothing in there was granted in the tentative budget. So do you want that all presented again?
I would like to have discussion on that. I don't know about the other two, but I would like to have discussion.
So
And
the answer I gave ones that I represent as portfolio singly, I told them to review their budget, and whatever requests they have to fulfill their statutory obligation is what they should submit back to me for discussion.
And where I have 3 portfolios.
Right, so
Do you
I
want
guess
us
I would
to
tell you
rate?
the same thing. I'm ready to have any discussion you'd like
Okay.
to have, but
I'll
you
try
know,
to get a time where I can get all 3 of you. because-
part of, the only one I remember in yours was, we had a couple of maybe identifiable things on the correction sites that Chief Deputy Durfee found, and I haven't seen an update. That's the only thing I haven't seen on that
I
side.
think we're waiting for a final cost on meals, and then there were a couple
Okay.
other little $3,000, $5,000 things.
Because I thought that would eliminate some of those, and that's why I say, then after you reevaluate yours, then we can go
I
from
can
there.
do that.
So, thanks.
Okay. Good?
It's always weird to approve a tentative budget that's several million less than what we'll end up doing, but here we go. I'll move that we tentatively adopt the 2018 tentative budget for the general fund and other budgetary funds for Utah County as stated number 1.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to, that we have reviewed and consider the tentative, and adopt the tentative budget as stated in number 1 on our regular agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay, number 2 is to set a date, time, and location for a public hearing to discuss the budget. And it has in there on this item that we need to strike out.
Yeah.
It's
I
in
was gonna say,
line
we need to
3.
move it.
Yeah, it says to consider changes in the existing salaries of the
Well,
county
we all-
officers in Utah County. And I suggest we strike that
Yeah,
part out.
that's fine with me. The other thing I'm gonna recommend is that we move it back to December 12th. Our meeting is on November 29th because of election this year, the special election.
We can do that. There's
You
no
act,
problem with that. if we
And
need
the
to.
other, I don't think that only gives Deneen 4 working days to compile after we
Yeah.
sit down.
Let's take a peek at that.
We have set that public hearing on all the other entities already for the December.
We'll be ready on
Just so
those
you know
ones,
those.
but this one's big. The special service districts and the bond authority and municipal building authority, those are fine. Because
And I don't recall if we have to publish those. I don't know if we've done them together in the past. We can do it
we
separately.
typically have done them.
Another option is you could have the.
Last year we
have it on-
accepted,
Have it on the 5th and then continue it and have it,
I know, but
up to you.
when we know, we've done that every year. We've
Yeah.
never had it on the 5th. We've done all the others and we've continued it for a week or 2 every time. So we might as well just move it to the 12th right off the bat, in my opinion.
Just
But-
gotta make sure and get it done by the end of the year.
That's right.
I have no problem moving it to the 12th. I think it's actually a little easier for us.
That works for me.
So if we could have a motion,
Okay, I will
Reading-
move
reading
that
it
we set a
appropriately.
date, time, and location for a public hearing to discuss the 2018 budget for the general fund and other budgetary funds of Utah County. Suggested date, Tuesday, December 12th of 2017 at 9 a.m. in room 1400 of Utah County Administration Building at 100 East Center Street in Provo, Utah.
Second.
okay, I got a motion and a second to set that date, time, and location as stated. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that passes 3-0. All right, number 5 now is the consideration for what we held the public meeting for with the French County Estates. Do we need to go over this any further? Do you have any more comments on this, Brandon?
I don't have any further
He,
comments.
he did state in the public hearing, and so we should maybe add it to this, that the staff recommendation is to approve this.
Absolutely. Right.
Any questions or discussion on
I
this?
didn't have any.
Okay, motion be in order then.
Move that we approve regular agenda item number 5.
Second.
We had a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 5 as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes 3-0.
All right.
Number 6 is to deny or adopt an ordinance, and I'll have to say, when I was reading down through this one, it confused the heck out of me.
I'm sorry. I know. I kind of.
The only reason why is because I thought the planning commission was sending a proposal not to recommend, and then there was a proposal to recommend, and I thought, what? I don't even know what the decision is, but now I've had to read it a couple times to understand. So if you just kind of give us a summary of what we're doing here. with
Sure.
this.
Absolutely. So the applicant's trying to, he's working on a subdivision application right now. When he submitted that, when staff started reviewing it, he realized that according to it appeared according to the ordinance that he needed 5 acres in his subdivision, but he only had 1.38. Well, so he submitted a text amendment to change the minimum acreage required for a subdivision in the RR5 zone down to 20,000 square feet, and that's like the minimum size for a lot. So as we started preparing this, the text amendment, we found that as you looked at the land, and again, that's how we've always interpreted it's section 63D2 of the land use ordinance. We've always interpreted that section, or we've always believed that section said that you had to have a minimum of 5 acres or a minimum of 5 acres in the RR5 zone. Well, as we looked at it closer, it didn't appear to actually say that. And the reason why, what kind of caused this this new, I guess, look at that section was that the state had I think it was House Bill 232 last year that placed a high importance on looking at the plain language of the ordinance. And so as we looked at the plain language of the ordinance, it didn't necessarily look like it was actually requiring you to have 5 acres in your subdivision. It looked like it was actually requiring you to start with 5 acres. And so what this guy really was doing was he was starting with 9 acres and then going down to 1.38 acres with the subdivision, including the remainder in an agricultural subdivision. So as we started processing this application, we're like, well, maybe he doesn't actually need this text amendment. And we reviewed our thoughts with the county attorney's office, and unfortunately found another section that looked like it needed to be changed to facilitate the application. And the subsection 53D1 talks about needing 5 acres for a minimum 5 acres for a dwelling site in the R5 zone. That subsection appears to kind of conflict with the other section, and so what we ended up doing was recommending that you deny the applicant's proposal, and then we came up with our own alternative proposal to help facilitate the applicant's application and clear up the fact that the land use ordinance does consider the fact that, and that this is hard to follow, but that the land use ordinance does allow for subdivision lots to have less than 5 acres, and it also allows non-conforming lots to be less than 5 acres in the R5 zone. So what our proposal is doing is to facilitate non-conforming lots being less than 5 acres and subdivision lots being less than 5 acres.
So here's what I don't understand. A couple
Okay.
facts on this one that bother
Sure.
me.
Yep.
We took his $300,
Yep.
and then we're saying deny it, but we're gonna fix it. Okay? We're not saying deny it because it's a bad application. We're saying we wanna fix it and make it. Why can't we then not punish this property owner, do it, knowing we're gonna fix it? Because if the plans meet what we're trying to fix, then can't we just grandfather him in knowing that it's going to meet everything else? And so staff makes a different recommendation where it meets all the other requirements, but we're gonna go back and fix the ordinance and we're gonna grant the exception that we are allowed to grant anyway.
Well, it met that particular requirement, but then it gets held up, and I guess I didn't make that point clear. It gets held up again because if he goes, it actually says that subdivisions have to be a minimum of 5 acres as well. And so we had to clear up that section to facilitate his application as well.
Is this in any annexation declaration for any cities?
No, it's in Alberta.
See, this is also the problem. You guys are also kind of bound by, in my opinion, way outdated general plan that this county is anti-development based on our general plan, not because you folks are anti.
Sure.
That's the problem. This, in any other regulation, meets every requirement to do a subdivision. But for our general plan that says, no, we're not gonna do development because we don't wanna do development, because we don't wanna provide services, well, guess what? It doesn't matter. We keep claiming numbers and all of a sudden now we have to do stormwater even though we're below the state number. So I don't know why we keep doing this. I've asked for us to amend this, and I guess maybe I'll propose a different way, but to me, I think we ought to approve these because there's no reason that somebody shouldn't be able to build on their land when it meets all the requirements. And it has actually been done in the county before, by the way, under the same requirement.
Yeah, it was, after we've looked at the ordinance, we realized we had a conflict, and this is just to try to clear
Sure.
up that conflict, so.
Plus, we took his money, so I would hope we'd at least give him back his $300 because we waive those fees all the time for all sorts of groups that never come back and report, even though we ask for it.
That's definitely been on my mind as well.
Robert Moore, County Attorney's Office. Let me just ask a couple points. The R5 zone typically.
You're not even being heard because I can't hardly hear you. So.
Sorry, Robert Moore, County Attorney's Office. Let me respond to a couple of things here and add a couple points. The R5 zone typically is a zone that applies to where a private water or a water system is in place.
Right.
And so, which does allow for smaller lots. Typically, that's in Alberta, Spring Lake, those kind of communities where you have this thing. There was the proposal that was proposed by the developer would not work in our view, but because he brought the proposal, we were taking a look at it, and that's when we discovered the error or the conflict, excuse me, and we would try to address that conflict. Really, to restate what Brandon said, is that under our current ordinance, you have to have a minimum of 5 acres to have a subdivision in the R5 zone, and or a non-conforming lot of record, or a conforming lot of record, excuse me, plus you have to have 5 acres for a building site, which is not what is contemplated in the R5 zone. It's 20,000.
Unless the
square feet.
commission rezones it, which we have the authority to do, or grants an exception, which we have the authority to do.
Exceptions, you don't have the authority,
can't do
but
exceptions.
you can grant, you can rezone, yes.
If we don't have the ability to grant an exception, why is this here?
This is here because this is your legislative act to change and allow what you're talking about. I think we're all on the same page, Commissioners, because what you're saying is we want to allow this development. We're trying to facilitate that. And that's why we're here today, is to help facilitate that development here. So what it does require, though, it would require you have 5 acres to start or conforming lots. But you could reduce it down to 20,000 square foot lot. As far as a home site goes, you could have your 20,000 square foot, excuse me, in a subdivision. Yes, but our current ordinance doesn't allow for that. And that's what we're trying to fix. I think that's an oversight
so-
in the past. So I think we're all
So here's
we're
my
all
other
trying to do the same
problem.
thing.
Here's the real reason why I'm also, and again, I'll take as much fault because I haven't done anything to fix it. But the county's land use ordinance is so far out of date. Because, for example, what we know is the larger the lots, the more waste of water. Where water is one of the more precious resources we have, the smaller lot sizes actually allow us a longer longevity. So higher density housing and less yard actually gives us more water sustainability in the future. And so that's the problem, is we need to have that discussion.
Well, you can have that discussion, Commissioner, but the problem really is you can't have septic systems on smaller lots.
I know.
And that's kind of what it boils down to. And you have a water systems that, where there are water systems, we've allowed for the smaller lots. And water or sewer systems, but.
We used to have 1 acre lots.
Yes, we did. We did. It's been a conscious effort by
Well,
past
20,000 is half
commissioners
acre lots.
to
Yeah.
encourage development to occur in cities.
Right.
There are some counties that don't do that, such as Wasatch County and Salt Lake County, where they act as a city, in the county. But Utah County's not taking that approach. they've always taken the approach of development should occur within the cities.
Unless you're in already one of the people in Alberta, Spring Lake, or West Mountain, or other county territories, because you got in before we got tough.
Well, no, I think that what they did is that they had a system, they had a water system. They built infrastructure.
Yeah.
The county doesn't do that.
Sure.
And so the private citizens got together, developers got together, and they built that infrastructure. And we've had similar kind of things. I mean, we up in the Alpine area, we've had some of those too, so.
Is Wayne here or a representative? Not here. I was just kind of curious at his thoughts on, have you spoke with him at all?
Yeah.
Is he?
Just interested in making sure it's gonna facilitate his application.
He's interested in making sure that this application is gonna facilitate his application. I don't recall him expressing any other concerns.
So
This
either
will
on
allow
the
it.
staff's proposal, I mean, I'm just wondering if it's if he has a conflict with that, if he's fighting for his proposal, or if he would fight for, or if he's fine with
Whatever
staff
he wants,
proposal.
he wants it as fast as possible.
That's
Bryce
true.
Armstrong, Community Development Staff. Yeah, he was in the Planning Commission meeting and represented that he was happy with the result because this accomplishes what he wants to do. The reason we didn't look at refunding is the ordinance didn't have an error, it just had it wasn't accomplishing what someone would have a lot less than 5 acres if they had a water system. So if we left the ordinance alone, it still stands. He just can't do what he wants to do. And so in order to accomplish what he wants to do, we had to do the changes.
No, if we accept his amendment to the ordinance, it does exactly what he wants to do. But we're saying we should reject it. So he paid us $300. He gave a workaround that worked for what he wanted to do. We took his money, so it does do what he wants to do.
Well,
what
his-
it doesn't do is what we want it to do and what he wants it to
His
do.
went beyond what we've held comfortable. He
Sure.
wanted to go down to 20,000 square foot.
Right,
lot
but it
as a
still did
minimum.
what he wanted to do. And that's why I say, in this case, I believe we should refund the money. Not because, you're right, there wasn't an error. But we charged him, the $300 is the fee for the text ordinance amendment.
In staff time that takes the time to do all the
Sure.
research and to accomplish everything.
Agreed,
he
but you're
wanted.
going to do it now anyway.
See, I'm not so worried
As,
about
as
the-
a reason, as,
I'm not,
as looking at his.
I'm not so worried about
request.
the $300. If he's fine with the staff proposal, I mean, if he brings forth a proposal that works and then you work it through and he says, oh, yeah, this looks like this gets to a point to where he's comfortable, that's the question I'm asking.
And he did.
Yeah, we feel he felt that way, so.
The planning commission asked
You can
him
work out
that
the
the same
$300
question.
one. If he comes back and asks for it, I mean, I think that's definitely a consideration, but
And on that issue, you know, you've denied applications in the past that we have not refunded the $300, so.
Yeah, not same circumstances, to me.
Okay.
For me on this particular one, I think this is a nice cleanup from a piece of land use ordinance that we needed cleaned up. It was brought to us, and as a result, we can clean it up, grant some people the opportunity to develop and use their land a little more as they want to. So for me, this one was a nice cleanup on something that was a little muddied. And,
Well,
and it came to us because of the application, and fortunately, we were able to work through that.
I agree, but that's why I say if we adopt his, he can start right away, and we can still clean it up. That's my point. This commission did this a month ago. We talked about approving something, and then we said, oh, we'll just go fix it. And it's like, so again, what we generally hear from is developers are frustrated. So I mean, I agree with you to your point, but I mean, with budget season and all these other things that are going on, I'm thinking to me, I think we ought to do it and fix it how we want anyway, because if we can adopt this and then still go back and do the fix that we're going to go back and do the fix anyway, and he's allowed to continue. That's why, to me, I would like to do it. So. Because we're gonna go back and fix it and take a look anyway. We've admitted that. So I don't know why we wouldn't adopt his and continue.
I think we are
That's-
doing that right now.
That's a part
what-
of the ordinance.
Yeah.
What you have in front of you, if you deny the first half of this proposal, the second half of this puts in place so that he can get his permit.
Right
So there
now.
won't be.
Yes,
yeah.
we're doing it all together.
One wouldn't be
Okay.
any quicker than the other.
Okay.
We were a little uncomfortable with him going down to 20,000
See, that's why,
square
see, I
feet.
was looking at the opposite where you had a deny and then adopt. I was thinking the other way around. Okay.
well, still, it would be a deny
And then an adopt.
and adopt.
But what
of
I
the
was
staff
saying is,
proposal.
But with that second adopt, he's saying they've allowed it so that he can start building now,
Oh,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
so I was
That's-
thinking go adopt and
That's how I
deny.
was thinking. It was
just as quick.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion? No. All right, motion to be in order.
I'll move that we deny the ordinances in subsection 6-3-D-2 and adopt the ordinance in 5-3-D-1 related to the minimum acreage requirement stated in number 6.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second to deny and adopt in the same motion. How about that? As long as it's clear as mud for everyone out there that's making it work. All in favor of doing that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Nothing like clarifying an ordinance by confusing.
Like I said, it was really
Motion,
confusing to
right?
me. I went down through a bunch of these. On 7 and 8, I'll just throw this out here, and I know they're not exactly the same. As we're going through our budget process and through our study, I recommend to the commissioners that we hold on these until we actually go through the entire process and know where we're at on a budgetary basis and with the market study before we move forward. And that's just kind of my recommendation as a talking point.
I have no problem in continuing 7. I would like to actually strike down number 8, and the reason being is because I think that is dangerous for us to start looking at positions that retire and splitting it and allowing departments to take red line money and creating another position out of it. It's a
On-
way to grow government
So-
really,
On
really
So
number
quick.
why don't we just strike both 7 and
Okay.
8 as we go through the
My
process?
My only question would be is if either one of those are time pertinent.
So.
Like,
on
7 could be
8,
grant funded.
They're okay with striking that. The Public Works Department is fine with that. On 7, although it's, I'll let Pat explain.
Can you turn up
this.
her mic, please? Because it's not just been you, it's been it's been all of them. Either that or I've just blocked ears this morning, sorry.
So typically when people are eligible for career ladders, once they meet the minimum requirements, then we move them up. This is usually requested in the budget process. For this department specifically, they received grant funding in July that they didn't know that they were going to have. So while it wasn't requested in the budget, they have the money to cover it
Currently.
through
Yeah, what
grant
about next year?
funding.
I think it's in their asks too.
Well, it's
They would-
funded through July of next year,
Yeah, and
or
it would-
until
Right.
July of next year.
Correct.
And it would continue under grant funding.
But the
Correct.
difference
They'll
is
have
this
to
is one
apply for
department
it.
head that if it goes away, we know that he'll furlough or do something to do it, because historically he has done that at least.
It's just backwards to me, this process, where we're granting it here and
Well,
we're still looking
the
at it in the
difference is
budget
in this
process.
department, the health department,
Yeah,
they're
I
still
know.
subject to those fiscal years that the state does, and that's kind of part of the problem here. But where
I
they already
just-
have the money.
And just overall, not necessarily this one here, but I would prefer that these not come on our agenda, through the remainder of the year as we're trying, because here we are trying to do a budget, we got the market study, and all of a sudden these come in, and they're all coming in different directions, and it gets very confusing.
Yeah, but these ones
Where
would
we're
have
at.
been encumbered in the salary study, and if they have the funding already.
For
This
me,
one's way different
For me,
than 8.
the drug and alcohol one is significantly different than 8. and
It is for me too.
Partially because of the funding source.
But yeah, only for the funding,
Yeah.
for me. That would, otherwise I'm with you, because budget-wise, if there isn't the budget already sustained, unless there is an immediate need to do a statutory obligation of the county, we shouldn't be addressing it.
Right.
And so I would hate to hold up something that we can move on now that's not affecting the budget or affected by the study.
So the thought is to grant number 7, strike number 8.
That would be my
And with an
inclination.
understanding, maybe with departments and everything else, that we really, or maybe with Cammie's office, that we don't want to see these as we're going through the process here at the end of the year.
Right, but
With
8,
the rest of 'em.
but 8, there is an additional request that we are going to address for
Right,
budget reasons
right.
already.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems reasonable enough, unless you want to say some more.
No, I think you're correct. Pat Bird with Department of Drug and Alcohol. As you know, our funding comes July 1st, and then we look at our priorities. This is the first time in a long time we actually received extra funding, and we took a look at our part-time employees. I currently have 7 positions open as case managers. We're looking to retain people. We've gone out and looked at the market already, this is where this is coming from. And these individuals have met the requirements. We started this process on July 21st, so it was us adjusting to the funding and maintaining our employees in those services.
Okay, let's deal with them individually then.
Okay.
Number 7.
I'll move that we authorize the upgrade for 4 full-time career service case management 1 positions as stated in regular agenda item number 7.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to, what was the wording on it? Authorize. As stated, number 7. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Motion to strike 8 from the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to strike number 8 from the agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Okay, on number 11, I went down through number 11, and it says that we're doing to approve an update, and yet I don't know what we're updating.
Bunch of diagrams.
Well, I see all the diagrams, but I don't know if, I don't know what was changed and what's different. What's the update?
Richard Nelson, Public Works Director. What we're looking at is the, mainly the arterial and collector cross sections, for road cross sections. In the past, the collector cross section has been 80 feet. The arterial has been 96 feet. This takes the arterial to 106 and the collector up to 84 feet. What this is, it's to try to come into line with what the practice has been. We have some of the collectors and arterials that traverse through various cities, and along a lot of these major roads, the cities are saying, hey, we would like a trail corridor that the city would maintain along that corridor. So to try to accommodate that within the road right-of-way and preserve that right-of-way along those major corridors, that's why we're looking at these correction or updates on it. The other classes of roads do not change. They're more there for informational purposes, but more for simplicity for us, so that all of the road standards are updated at the same time. So those others have not changed.
The only questions well, not the only. My main questions on page 4 and 5 are the rural development roads, and you have swales after we do paved and shoulder, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What's confusing to me is you have a maximum vertical grade of 6%. Is that for the swale, or because
Where are you reading?
I'm the first one on page 4, the standards are number 8. So the problem is what I don't see is, like, because you drive up and down some of these county roads, and some of these swales are 2 inches, and they'll, do little, and some are ditches.
The maximum vertical grade there in number 8 on it is actually
from the swell.
No, it's along the roadway.
Okay. But see, that's my point is somebody's reading this, it doesn't, I mean, I know the attorney can tell me that's the road, and I know the county engineer can tell me that it's the road, but maybe we ought to clean up some of the language a little bit.
We could certainly do that, so.
And then again, on the swell, do we have a requirement? Now that we're in the stormwater business, unfortunately, do we have a requirement? And that's really why I was asking. Is there something they've mandated that has to be X amount engineered to hold so much water? Okay.
Yeah, there's not a requirement to that effect.
Okay.
It's hard to show the swell as a standard in
Right.
cross section because the topography is so different
Sure.
along the road. So that's why we left it very generic there, so
Sure.
we can work with the individual engineers as they come in on those. I think it would be good though if you so chose to include maybe something there to clarify that item number 8, the grade is along the roadway.
Sure.
And we could make those changes if.
And I would propose that maybe we continue this for a week so we can get that red line version of why
That'd be
we're
fine.
going from the, whatever you said, the 84 to the 106, and then ask a few
Show you
questions.
what the difference is between the two.
Yeah, and
then you can just make
and
those
why,
changes.
why we're doing that.
Sure.
What's the purpose? How does that affect, what we're doing? So overall, the adoption of these road sections means what?
But what it amounts to is as development happens along a county road, whether
This is all that can be done is with what's in our, is that what it is? So these are the only the roads that can be built if we adopt these?
not necessarily. But what we have done is like, and I'll use Box Elder South up in the Alpine area as an example. Because that was a subdivision that was happening in the county with anticipation of it going into the city, it was actually built to the Alpine city standard, and that was something that we brought through as part of the subdivision approval that came to the commission to do that. So there are exceptions that come about like that, but they come as part of the subdivision approval that come
This
before
would be
this
a
body.
greater standard than what we would do in Spring Lake.
Correct.
particularly.
Correct. So this is typically what you would do in any subdivision that would be in the county. There are some exceptions like on the arterial collectors, like along Woodland Hills Drive, 11200 South. There may be a subdivision happening that's in the city, but it's bordering a county road. So then we would use this standard along the county road that the city subdivision would be bordering. Does that make sense?
Bryce Armstrong, staff. I guess the way this would impact the land use ordinance, it would potentially affect the required setback for a structure for a person who wanted to build. Right now, we have two setback distances. We have a setback distance measured from a property line, and we also have a setback distance from a center line of road based on the classification. And then we enforce whichever's greater. That is to accomplish a future dedication and make sure that the building or structure is set back to accommodate that newer or that full right-of-way width once it's obtained. And so that's another effect that would have. There could be greater setback distances
So we maybe do need to look, sure.
from collectors and arterials.
Two of you can probably get together, hopefully.
We
then,
can, and you know, one of the things that we're trying to do is, as development happens along these corridors, we want to try to preserve that right of way while it's undeveloped land now, and not have a North County Boulevard situation where we go in and, you know, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we have to go in and buy several houses to widen the roadway. So that's kind of what the effect is here, so.
Okay.
Motion that we continue item 11 for 1 week.
Second?
A motion and a second to continue item number 11 for 1 week. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes 3-0.
Let me just ask a clarifying question here. You want to see the red lines of what the old cross-section was
Yes.
versus the new?
Mhm.
And we'll address what
Make
Bryce talked,
any clarifying
and the
statements
clarifying
some of
on the
those things.
slopes.
Yep.
Anything
With
other than that?
Just maybe an explanation of why.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Okay. The only closed meeting that I have is number 16.
Move that we strike regular agenda items 13, 14, and 15.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to strike items number 13, 14, and 15. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
Move that we approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting for a strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation for today's date at this location following the completion of the regular agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve and set a date, time, and location as stated number 16. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. We have no work session items. Is there any public comments?
Hi, my name is Robert Stevens. I live in Provo. $78 million is quite a lot. When I think of the proper role of the county, I think in terms of since the cities aren't building sewer treatment systems, then that should be the role of the county. So, I think in terms of disaster, in I think it was 1859, there was a solar flare that if it happened again, it would wipe out microcircuitry and the trucks would stop shipping. What kind of disaster planning is there being done? And so I think in terms of we delegate to government that which we can't do ourselves in a much larger way. We can't build roads, we can't build sewer treatment systems, and we certainly aren't able to go and plan for a large-scale disaster. So what do? Well, $78 million. I've been in the county over 30 years. That's over a $2 billion now. And so, how many sewer treatment systems have been built during then? None that I'm aware of. So one thing you could do that I like to propose is you think of yourself as an incubator of innovation. Salt Lake's experimenting with the idea of buying up housing and putting the homeless in the housing. That's a worthy idea to go and test. If it's successful, then other cities will go adopt it. You could go and privatize as much as you can. 7 years ago, I did perk test on my property, and they said, just go dig a hole with your shovel, and we'll come out and see how fast the water's is perking. Now it's privatized, and it costs $900 for a perk test. What's changed? Well, the regulators made lots of laws that made it impossible for a regular citizen to go with a spade to dig a hole in his property and pour some water in it, right? And so, privatizing everything is probably a worthy idea, because the free market usually offers a better product, a better service in a time that's shorter. But if the regulators just make it impossible for the pre-market, for the free market to go and succeed, then it just gets worse, as it does now for a perk test on your own property. I'd also like to see in that $78 million a year the formation of a Department of Liberty. Who represents liberty? For example, I grew up for a few years in Rhode Island, and we had 1/3 acre lots, and we had our own septic systems on each lot. Our backyard had a drain system and so forth. I don't remember anyone ever getting sick. That house in that area still has septic systems on 1/3 acre lots. And so if you balance that against liberty, if you were to tell me, well, living in Utah, you should live to 77, but if you live on a 1 1/3 acre lot, as Brigham Young had planned, and if it's going to take away 1 year out of your life, then I'd rather live on my land, on my 1 1/3 acre lot, and have my 1 year shortened in my life. So if there's no Department of Liberty, then who's going to balance all the regulations against those things? That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, we will move into our closed meetings. Thank you. Thank you for coming.